can only be torn down by us cooperating with the Holy Spirit. I want to share some techniques with you. This is something else. Please bear with me. These guys have been very helpful. Okay, so I'll just give you some examples of the pedestal effect. I spent a number of years at the Royal Flying Doctor Service trying to reach people who had different... Oh, you guys are impressive. Wow. I tried really hard to share my faith by living it out. On Monday morning, I'd go to work and my colleagues would say, "Hey, Nathan, what did you do on the weekend?" I'm a good Adventist, right? What's my answer? What did I do on the weekend? I went to church. Now, I wasn't trying to boast. I wasn't trying to lift myself up. What was I trying to do? Why was I telling them about church on Sabbath? What was my secret hope? That they would come join me, right? How many people at my work came to church because I told them that I go to church on Saturdays? 0. It's the pedestal effect. I'm making myself up here, and the translation message is, you didn't go to church, you weren't good enough. I was better than you are, I'm holy. I wasn't saying that, but that's how they took it. How do I know this? Because after 10 years, I asked them, why didn't you guys come? And they told me. What are some other examples of the pedestal effect? This button, there you go. Junk food is ruining your health. Do they know that already? Most likely. Why are they eating junk food? It's not a knowledge problem, it's something else. If I tell them, you've got a junk food problem, what am I doing to the gradient between where I'm standing in their eyes and where they're standing in my eyes? Are they going to want to come and talk to me, or are they going to give me a wide berth? They don't want to be judged, right? They're not going to come and talk to me. They're going to say, I'll go and do my own thing. Thank you very much. What if I tell them our church has lots of ministries? What's the message they will receive if I tell them that? Well, what's your church doing? Do you even go to church? Are you good enough to go to church? Smoking, you get the idea. As we try to live out our life in a Christian way, we are trying to tell people to follow our example, right? We're trying to entice them. But they're not going to come if we put ourselves on a big pedestal like this. What's the way to help people join us? Keeping in mind this pedestal effect. What would be a better way if someone is struggling with health choices, or if someone is searching for a God and is having a bad experience with God? What can we do instead of telling them how different we are? How can we reach them instead? Let me suggest to you some questions. I'll see if I can jump through this. This is not what I had in mind. Here we go. True story. I'll finish in about 9 minutes. I'll go as fast as I can. True story. I thought I knew a lot about my brother, as a stranger to me, but his denominational background. My brother here is a very sincere priest of the Catholic Church. When I was a small boy, I went to evangelistic programs. I heard all about what a certain church believes, all of the theology, all of the quotes from their documents that prove to us Seventh-day Adventists what they believe. When I was an adult, I had quite a number of neighbors I got very, very close to. I would spend time with them in their homes, hours and hours and hours, talking about God and religion, talking about my church, talking about their church. I thought I knew a lot about this denomination. Then I went to college. I got a master's degree. One of my professors was an expert theologian who had a Catholic upbringing. He was a Catholic-trained priest. He became an evangelical minister, and his whole ministry was helping Christians minister to people who were Catholics. Then I thought I was really, really smart. So one day I thought, I know what I'll do. I'm going to talk to my friend, Father Paul. I'm going to ask him why he keeps the Sabbath. And I know what he's going to say. So I asked him, I said, Father Paul, I didn't say Father, I said, Paul, my friend, I'm really curious. Why do you go to church on Sunday? The answer he gave me blew my socks off. We'll come back to his answer in just a moment, if I can get the clicker to advance forward. The power of questions. How many questions did Jesus ask in the Gospels? Give me some guesses. 50. Any advances on 50? I'd say a tiny bit more. 60. We need to think a lot more. You're woefully short. 408 is a good guess. We're approaching the magnitude. When I did my search in Logos, I found 552 interrogative sentences in the Gospels alone. How many questions did Jesus answer? And when I mean answer, I don't mean with a question. I mean, how many questions did Jesus answer? There's a book here, a very interesting title, Jesus is the Question. And this particular title says 307 questions Jesus was asked, and the 3 he answered. Now, I found a few more than 3 questions, but Jesus didn't answer. I think I found about 8 questions in the Gospels. I worked pretty hard, and I found 8 questions that Jesus actually gave an answer to. What does that tell us about Christ's method? Here's a few examples of the questions that Jesus asked. I'd love to talk about it, but I don't really have time, so I'll just skip right through it like that and say Jesus asked lots of questions. Why do we ask questions? Questions tend to do what? It makes people think. It engages them. If I can't go 4 feet to talk to somebody, I could very politely and very respectfully ask a question. And if it's the right kind of question, it'll be like a hug. They will come. If it's a nasty question, then they're going to give a wider berth, right? Questions strip away. Answers cover up. If I tell you the name of the first president of the United States, you'd be interested possibly and then walk off. If I ask you which president of the United States got the White House to build a bigger bathtub for him, now I'm asking you a question and now you're curious. Questions create curiosity. Who needs a bigger bathtub anyway? Questions help us find out what the other person actually believes. I have found 0 success in assuming anything about anybody. Their appearance doesn't tell us necessarily what they're thinking or what they believe. It can give us clues, but let's check with some polite questions. Questions continue the conversation. What do answers do to a conversation? Okay, so here's a tip, the hot tip today. If you want to end a conversation, give an answer. So when you're at the booth next weekend, if you're finished talking to that person, give them an answer, and they will walk off. I promise you, 100% of the time. So I'm going to see if my son is still available. This is my son, Stephen. We do know each other, so it's a bit hard to do, but I actually did not rehearse this. Stephen will tell you, he actually came to me last night and says, Dad, what am I supposed to talk about today? I've got no idea. And I told him I would rather not rehearse because then I can tell everybody we didn't rehearse. So we didn't rehearse. So it's a bit hard, but let's pretend he's a complete stranger. What's Stephen wearing on his shirt? Why would he be wearing an aeroplane on his shirt? Okay, so if I see a complete stranger walking up to me, I see a complete stranger, I might say something like, hey, that's a cool shirt. Do you have an interest in aircraft?
Yes, I do.
Well, do you like to draw pictures of planes, or do you like to fly planes, or you sort of dream about flying one day? What sort of...
Yeah, I'm interested in a lot of aviation. I do enjoy drawing. I do like to dream about flying, and I want to be a pilot when I grow up.
Okay, so a complete stranger, I know now a few things about what his passion is. Now, my belief is the gospel has something for everybody. What would the gospel have for somebody who wants to grow up and be a pilot one day? What's another question I can ask him? Where do you want to fly? Well, what do you want to fly?
Well, I like Airbus aircraft.
He likes Airbus. Now, just so happens, I happen to like Airbus too. There's just a connection there. If I didn't know about Airbus or aircraft, I don't need to be an aviation expert. I can still ask questions. Well, what's it like? Why would you choose that? What was it that inspired you to start this career? And pretty soon, he's talking about his favorite topic. Do you think he wants to talk to me about his favorite topic? Is there any way I could get this wrong? unless I tell him that it's a stupid idea and airplanes are dangerous and he should try something else. I mean, I could try that technique. But when I give him an answer, what happens to the conversation? It's done. Thank you so much, Stephen. And in real life, I'd do a whole presentation about how to guide the conversation, but that's not for today.
I have a question. What about if it's Laura and she doesn't have a shirt with an airplane on it?
I have a slide for you. Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to give you now 2 minutes, 7 examples on the screen. I would encourage you to have a quick little chat with the person next to you. Pick one of those 7 examples. Someone like Laura is making it more difficult for us. Oh, sorry. It wasn't me. Someone like Laura could be more. Laura's dressed in undercover cop clothes, undercover clothes today. We'll come back to Laura in just a minute, but let's look at the 7 examples on the screen. Hopefully they're big enough, I think they're scrolling them for us. I've got a sports hat. I've got some people wearing some creative clothing. I've got a license plate, a sticker. I've got a tattoo. I've got a T-shirt that's pretty famous. 2 minutes. Talk to your friend next to you, and the question is, what would be your opening question to this person? This person is wearing this or demonstrating this or showing this or appears like this. What would your opening question be? I'll give you maybe 90 seconds. Pick your favorite one. What would be your opening question? About 20 more seconds. All right. I'm very sorry. I'm really sorry to cut your time short. There's a lot more to discuss, but my time is almost up and I haven't finished my story yet. How would we address, let's start with the license plate. Did anyone discuss the proud parent of a soldier? Who discussed that one? What sort of ideas, what sort of questions? I got Julie and Ron and Sylvie at the back. Julie? Yeah, perfect. Do you think that's going to be an easy conversation to start? What would be some follow-up questions to that? Yes, perfect. Can I pray for your child? I mean, it'd be so easy, wouldn't it? They may not have their car parked next to the booth, but they might have a hat. It might say veteran or the same thing. I'm a proud parent of her, or a proud mum of her, or a proud dad of her. You get the idea. What sort of ideas do you have? Yeah, perfect. Yeah. All kinds of options. And whenever you're asking a question, your goal is to be searching for a clue so you can get the next question. I'd like to have a whole seminar on how to actually sequence the questions, but that's a whole topic we haven't got time for today. But you want to sequence yourself. The goal you have is to become their confidant, someone that they trust, someone that cares about them. If you're a salesperson, they're going to get defensive, right? If you're not going to try and sell anything, but you just genuinely care about their kids serving overseas, give that 5 or 10 minutes, and I promise you, you'll go deep. I wish I could share some stories, even this week. Gary. You could wing it. I like it. You're my kind of guy. Anyone else with the license plate? How about the dog? And my dog's smarter than your honor student. Yes, go ahead. They obviously have a dog, haven't they? They've got to have a dog. Yeah, you like it. I like it a lot. And they're obviously a little bit witty or pithy. You know, they have a bit of disdain possibly for certain people who hold. I'd be curious about their education interests. They probably don't have an interest in higher education, perhaps, because they're more interested in the dog rules the life, perhaps. Mr. Joe. Gary could be a stand-up comedian for us. Thank you, Gary. Go for it, Joe. It'll be very easy to start talking about, hey, what have you learned working with dogs? You could go, and for me personally, I'm always looking for, I want to be tactful and discreet, but I'm looking for a way to make this kingdom related, but I'm looking also to not make them cornered. If someone gets like they sense like they're being cornered, I'll just backpedal. And I wish I could tell you some stories. Even this week, when you start to backpedal, people will chase you. They will say, wait, I want to know something. All right, we're really out of time. The Coexist t-shirt. Anyone? What's the message of the Coexist t-shirt? Every idea is equal. It doesn't matter what you believe as long as we get along, right? But we don't want to assume that, because if we assume something, there's a phrase that goes along with that. We don't want to assume anything. So we want to ask them, hey, your shirt looks like you have a great interest in diversity. You've got a great interest in everybody that's different. Tell me, how did you get into this? What exactly is the impetus? Or how did you decide that this is an important thing? Or what do you think about coexisting? If I'm a Jew and someone else is a Muslim and someone else is there's a Christian and a Wiccan there, there's the yin and the yang, is it okay if we just all get along? Is that what you think? Yes, Eric. Okay. So if they say that, if they, and this is pretty rare in developing countries where clothing is in short supply, it could happen. But in this culture, I would be very surprised. But say that was the case, I'd just say, hey, if you got it at an op shop, was it kind of like an accident, or was it kind of like, was it the colors that attracted you, or was it just totally a random shirt? You had that way you can write off the shirt and go for something else, maybe some jewelry, or you can go for the shoes, or you can go for the hairstyle, you go for something else. If they tell you you got the wrong message here, then look for another message. Talk about thrift shopping. I like it. Nice work, Joe. In the bottom middle, people that look a little bit creative. Yes, environmental. Yes, very, very good idea. Who's your barber? What? I want to get this. On a serious note, that'd be a good way to start. Just break the ice. People take a lot of effort and money to dress like this. This isn't how people come out of bed in the morning. This takes effort. These people took time to present a certain message. Now, I've got some guesses about their message. I'm guessing, this is Nathan privately guessing, I'm guessing there's a bit of Gothic kind of an influence here, but I better not assume it. So I'm going to ask it. I'd be like asking, hey, I can tell you guys have spent a lot of time making yourselves look really, really creative, and I'm curious about that. What's the most exciting part? I'm just trying to get them. It's the costume first. What's the part that you take the most pride in? Or is it the hairstyle, or is it the hair product, or is it? But secretly, as a Christian, and this is for another conversation, these people, I can't assume, I've got to ask them straight, but they probably have an issue with death. they probably have an issue with happiness and life because, and I've got to be very careful about assuming here, but from my experience talking with these kinds of people, they've become so cynical with happiness and life because everything always turns terrible in the end that they've actually gone to celebrate and make fun of and laugh about death. Death to them is the gateway. So I want to talk to them about death, but I've got to sort of gingerly tiptoe around the tulips to get there. But I'm going to get their permission to go there by asking them about things that they feel comfortable about sharing first until I get to the death topic. So the more creative, more scary looking, and the same with the t-shirt coexist and the no more tequila thing, these look more difficult for Christians, but actually the door is wider open. We just got to be sensitive getting there. Questions. The guy with the cross on the hand, that might be a bit of an easy one. If you see a girl with a necklace of a cross, if it's an upside down cross or a broken cross, then that could be a clue too. Obviously, we've got to be very careful and tactful, but never assume. Check, ask. Hey, I'm curious about the jewelry. Does it have any religious significance? Oh, no, my boyfriend gave it to me. Oh, yeah, I'm a Wiccan. Oh, great. And then we can take the conversation from there. A whole discussion for another day. Let me just finish up with my friend here, Paul. Paul and I had this conversation, and I asked him, why does he go to church on Sunday? And he said to me, because Jesus changed it. Now, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. I told you the whole background of my story, and I thought, hang on a minute. How does that work? I was completely lined up for one particular kind of conversation, and now I had no idea what to do because he gave me the wrong information. He didn't stay on the script that I expected him to stay on, which leads me to a very important part of this whole experience. As you're talking to a stranger, pray heaps, continuously. Dear Lord, I want to ask this guy another question. What can I do to show this lady that I really care? What's a question that I can ask that makes her feel special? We're not trying to trap people. We're not trying to bring up a theological point to confuse them and say, ha, got you now, because then the conversation closes, right? The pedestal effect comes back into play. We do want to get to the bottom of things. We do have some stuff to share, but that will be for another presentation. Our goal first up at the fair is to get into the door. In summary, we ask God to help us every single step. I wish I could share some questions. This week I had an amazing time with a colleague. Don't assume anything, just ask. The person there is the expert on them, at least other than God. The person you're talking to is the expert on them. So don't assume because they identify as a certain thing or they claim to be a certain whatever. Ask them about them, genuine care and concern, and then ask yourself, what can the gospel give what this person wants? If you can find the answer to that with God's help, then I think we have succeeded. In closing, I have an article that I had written for the church folk in Australia. I've got about 15 copies of it. I can send you electronic copies. It's just what you see, the 2 pages and 5 techniques for talking to complete strangers, especially the more belligerent ones. I can share copies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nathan. And this is just the beginning of a series that we're going to be doing during our Shine Outreach. We have asked Nathan to help us do some training, some